Hi guys, so welcome to Inner Women Wellness. So I am so excited that today I'm joined by Eleonora, who is a speaker, she's a nutrition practitioner, she is a women's health advocate, and she is a furball mum. She has a little fur baby and super cute, and she also loves to bake. So Eleonora, welcome
Hello.
to Inner Women Wellness.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome. So great to see you again. I
Oh,
love your energy and I love what you're doing. So thank you for having me and being part of this.
I love yours, and honestly, like I think so. We'll start off with a bit of an intro to you, and your background and what your kind of goals are, and then we can lead into the rest of it. So
Let's
over
do
to you.
Cool. Well, my name is Eleonora. I am a nutrition practitioner. I've been doing this now for 6 years, and I got into it because actually I used to suffer with depression and eating disorder growing up, and it got really bad to a point that I was almost suicidal at the age of 17. So when I started like getting myself out of slowly I reached out for help and like told my parents that I wasn't well and started my healing journey, then got myself out of it and I couldn't think of doing anything else. So I went to nutrition school at the Institute of Integrative Nutrition in New York, took my certification for a year, and then I have been practicing since. And it's now been 6 years. So I've done all kinds of stuff in these 6 years, from creating my program that then became the book, and then like became then it's all an evolution. And yeah, so now I'm a speaker full time and yeah, help people all over the world.
Amazing. And so I'm reading your book at the minute actually, and I think it's amazing the message you have for women. And it's really amazing the story that you've overcome that's kind of led you into the work that you're now in. And so just so your story, so you had an eating disorder, and that's what kind of led you into nutrition and everything. What was, you kind of touched on it on your book, but what was your turning point when you were like, I can't do this anymore, and you sought help?
Well, it's actually really interesting because like with my eating disorder, I did not think that I had one,
Mm.
which is, like I just thought that. So it started with anorexia, then I would do binge eating, then bulimic, then anorexia, then binge eating, then bulimic. But it was never extreme, right? It was just very subtle. I grew up in Milan, which is the fashion capital of the world, where you're surrounded by like 6 foot tall models that are super skinny. So, like I thought that my obsession with being skinny was just due to the surrounding and stuff. And I just wanted like having to compete, if you want to like say it like that, right? Like at the time, in your teenagers, you want to like, if you want to be worthy of attention in Italy, you needed to be skinny and beautiful like these models, right? Because that's what you're working around. So I thought that at the beginning, my relationship with food wasn't an issue. So, and that's like really important. And I think like a lot of the people have like the mistake and misconception that in order for you to be anorexic, you have to be ultra skinny, like when you can see that you're almost like to the point of like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. Like some people are suffering with it,
Yeah.
even though you don't show physically yet the signs. I mean, like looking back at the pictures, I posted a few in Instagram, you can see that I had a problem, right? But like it was never clear even to my parents that I was like to that extreme. But like I used to like literally go through the day eating one protein bar, one apple, and then having one spoon of apple cider vinegar whenever I get like a cramp of hunger, because that's what a model told me to do whenever I was getting hunger. So like it's I didn't know that I have an issue. So the whole eating disorder was never something that I thought I needed help with.
Mhm.
It was just like my emotional state, right? Like, so my eating disorder was triggered by an abuse that happened when I was very young, and unfortunately that triggered with like a whole kinds of emotion. And then unfortunately my parents had a very nasty divorce. So when you're in your teenage, already with all the hormones that are running around your body, you tend to be very dramatic. Then add on top of that like traumatic experiences, like in my case, like I think like emotionally I was just a total mess. Like I did not know where north was, and just got lost into this like dark 8 years. And I never thought like eating, like my issue was with food, and I thought it was like depression, right? Because that's like what I could feel. Like I started doing drugs, unfortunately, because I needed to get myself out of the state. And when I got to the point of being suicidal at 17, that's what I knew I needed help, so I used to cut my arms. And one day I touched rock bottom, and I went to my mom and I showed her my arms, and I'm like, I need your help. And yeah, so then from there on, I started my eating journey, and it took years. Like, it wasn't, I think, like, the turning point really happened when, so I was born and raised in Italy, Milan, and then I moved to America when I was 22. And I was married. I got married with an American guy. That's how I got my green card, and then eventually my citizenship, like 2 years ago. But yeah, so like when I was with him, I was still suffering with eating disorder, and I didn't realize. So like in that case, when I was in Chicago days, I was in full binging mode because I was feeling so empty and scared. There was so much happening around me, like I just left everything that I know. I went to a country where my English, girl, like it wasn't as good as it is right now. It was pretty bad. And like I was feeling overwhelmed, and then I found out like that with my husband we just didn't have anything in common, and we didn't do all the big talks. So now I am in America, living in the suburbs, and my husband doesn't want me to work, and I want to like work and live in the city. He wants to stay in the suburbs. He wants to have kids. I don't want to have kids. So it's just like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. And I got into like the wedding and like the marriage thinking that I was gonna break the family tradition of getting divorced, and like so much pressure. And then eventually after a year, I'm like, okay, I'm calling it quits. This is too much. Like, just, it wasn't working. So I left him and I went down to Miami, and that's when the change happened. So 3 days after I got to Miami, it was really, like the universe works in incredible ways. After 3 days that I got to Miami, I met this guy, this super handsome guy in a sauna, and he was like a little bit flirtation, and I was like, welcome to Miami, like I'm like, okay, let's go with it. Started flirting back, and start chatting, and he goes like, oh, you should meet my wife. And that's like, I was like, my wife? You were flirting with me, now you have a wife? What's going on here? Turns out he introduced me to the wife, and me and the wife ended up becoming best friends. So she was a top model that was building a brand, and my background is in marketing. So I helped her developing her brand, which was, like teaching the world the models do they eat, they just make healthier choices. So because I had to write a blog post, stay with her like 24/7, right? Like, and I was like always there working with her. I started healing my relationship with food. And then once I started feeling better, then I didn't have the depression anymore. I didn't have the anxiety anymore. And with her husband, which was a life coach and a shaman and an energy healer and all that, I started my spiritual journey and cleansing myself. And yeah, and that's how the transformation happened. So there wasn't really particularly a moment that I decided, yeah, like I need to change. Like I knew at 17 that if I wasn't going to change quick and reach out for help, I would have probably be dead very soon after. But like the rest happened kind of like organically, like with the world. And you would know what's funny, I was like telling this, like, you came like the realization the other day. So at 4 years old, I went on holiday in Miami, and I decided I wanted to live there. I made my life mission to live in Miami. I'm like, that's it. And I didn't know, 4 years old, I'm like a little girl, like I didn't know anything. And then the abuse happened and everything happened in my life, and it was in Miami that I found my healing. How strange is that?
That is the universe, just like
the universe, right? Like I always had this call for Miami. So like for me, Miami is such a special place in my heart, and for me that's home, because that's, he brought so much into my life, and I'll always be thankful.
So how come you're in London now then?
Love.
That's why I'm up north.
There you go. I don't know why as women we tend to do those things. So first I moved to America for the first time around, and now I'm in London, back to Europe. Yeah. But yeah, it's actually funny. I met him through that couple years ago. Yeah. So I was separating, he was separating. We stayed friends throughout the year. I then started a relationship for 3 years, and then went on my own journey, like with my relationship and whatever, but stayed friends. And then once I broke up with that guy, he started pursuing me, and he pursued me for 1 year, talked me into trying to date him. And I was like, I'm not. Like, I moved from Miami to LA, so I was even further from London. I'm like, the last thing I need is a boyfriend in London, like seriously. And he went for a year. He came and visited me twice. He was like, la 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 la. And then eventually after a year, I'm like, okay, fine, if you fly me to London for your birthday, because he asked me to be his date on his 40th birthday. Like, okay, fly me to London, I'll come. And then he flew me to London. I was like, okay then. And then I came here, and he's a good salesman, man. Like, he's good. He's
Oh,
good. He gave me the time of my life. I got back from that trip, and I applied for my American citizenship. I'm like, oh, I think this is it.
amazing.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's such an, I love stories like that. That's amazing.
So fun.
And I think it's really interesting that you had a story like that, because I love that your approach is literally like, stop counting calories, stop fixating on numbers. And I think as women, we get so hung up on what the scales are saying. And I loved exactly like when you have a picture of all the body types, and you were like, you know what one you are,
Right.
that is the basis. You're going to get to a limit of it. And I'm very much a believer in that, because I feel that we always fight against our bodies, and we fight against our hormones and everything that's going on as women constantly, because we have this society picture of what we've got to conform to and look like.
We
And
have to look like, yeah.
yeah, and honestly, like reading your book, I was like, this is a breath of fresh air. So is it your journey that like made you realize that women have just got
Well, so yeah, it is my journey, absolutely. And, like working with like, like coaches and people, like, throughout like my own healing, that I've realized that there's so much pressure. There was recently a campaign, I forgot what it was. Did you see it? With a bunch of famous people that show like all the objectives that like they need to be like, oh,
yeah.
what was that? I forgot about that. Anyways.
I can't remember. I just really remember Little Mix just writing all over themselves, and I think it was for their album or something, and they literally had like the word like fat and ugly and all that written over their body of what they had been called, and it was so.
There was another one. I'm gonna find it because it's like really, really interesting. Like, it was a campaign that came out recently. They were saying like, put on makeup, don't put on too much makeup, because then like you look like.
Oh, this
then,
girl, yes, yes, it was Cynthia Nixon when she's doing that whole thing. Oh my god, that is the most powerful thing
that is
like
our life.
Yeah, literally.
We are put on with
Oh
all these ideas of how we should be, and the contradicting information.
Yeah.
You're like, what am I supposed to do? So I was just fed up, because for the longest time I was just like looking up and trying to meet all the check boxes and all the criteria of like, okay, I have to be skinny, I have to show my skin, but I cannot show my skin too much. I was driving myself nuts to try to keep up, and like having to look a certain way, having to like be a certain way. And then eventually at one point I've learned to release it all and just be myself. And that was the most freeing moment of my entire life. Like, stop trying to count calories, like the whole scale. Fuck. Like, sorry. I speak time. Sorry. So it's like, unfortunately, like the whole thing that happens with our society, which I think is very skewed, is that like we are taught to follow things from the outside, and that is like the worst thing that you can possibly do. We have all our answers within us. The whole scale, the whole dieting world, it makes me so angry, because it is meant for you to fail. The whole it's a multi-billion-dollar industry that is meant, and it's based on you failing, because nobody wants a one-time consumer. So they give you all the wrong information, and they trick you, and they scam you with like the little words, and they slap things that make no sense and stuff, just to like make you buy them. And it just drives me so mad, like how they brainwashed women on having to be and perform a certain way. It's like, the scale should be tossed. Like, I don't know how much I weighed. I haven't weighed myself in like 6 years now. I can tell you I'm wearing the same clothes for the last 6 years, but that is the only way that I gauge myself, because like the number on the scale has the power of literally like kill you emotionally first thing in the morning, and putting that bad energy, like, just by looking at a number. And that means nothing. Like, it doesn't mean like you're healthy and you're not healthy. It just means like that's your weight on this planet. That's it. It doesn't mean that like, there's some people that are like skinny, but then they're feeling so terrible because they don't have energy, they cannot think straight and all of that. Like, you should focus your attention on health. So if you can detach yourself from anything that it's like weight related and focus your attention on health, you will free yourself, because a healthy body will never carry extra weight. A healthy body will never carry extra weight. So if you focus your attention on feeling good in your body, and like having the energy and focusing, like, the weight will shed off itself. So it's about like reshifting the whole mindset, and like not trying to have a specific look, but just learn to feel good in your body. And this is like what I'm all about, and this is what I teach people, which I think, like, it's super important. Like, stop trying to fit like in boxes, because you'll never win. You just never win. So
Exactly.
focus on being the best version of you, and that's my message.
It's so true. Like, honestly, when I watched that video, I was like, this is women's lives. Like, this is completely women's lives. It's so powerful. But honestly, like, I think it's so true what you do. But I'm curious, because you've written the book and everything, and you are really active on social. You have a big following. How do you protect yourself? Because I feel like social media, like, I've always had a very negative opinion of it, and then it's only when I'm kind of building my business, I'm like, oh god, got to get on board with this, and I'm really engaging and actually am loving it. But how do you protect yourself? Because it is out there is, like, people compare themselves to all of these Instagram perfect pictures, and how do you keep yourself not going down that rabbit hole? Because I feel it's very easy for us to go down it.
It's funny. I actually shied away from social media for the longest time. I was doing it because I have to, because I want to. But like, I always had like a lot of resistance from it, because I was going on comparison mode. I think like it's normal, like as human beings, we always are attracted to the idea of perfect, right? So our brain will always want to like have that, right? But you never know, like, on social media, it's just like a picture. You don't know the struggles they're going behind like a person's life. So you only see the highlights of someone's life, and you don't see any of the lowlights, right? So I found myself like having to not be on social media because I was going down that. So what I do is just I unfollowed anything and everybody that I was comparing myself to, and I only kept the accounts that I actually uplift me. So I have a lot of memes accounts. A lot of them. Love the memes. Like, love a good memes. Like, it just like it makes me like a good mood. So a lot of like memes account, and then just like empowering stuff. So if you go on the people that I follow, it's just either like people that I have a relationship with, or people that are inspiring and they're doing good to the world. I don't follow any of the top models. I don't follow any of the Victoria's Secret models. I don't follow any of that stuff, because it's just, I know I am guilty of it. And it's just, why do I have to spend emotional energy on like having to talk myself out of it, when like the best possible thing is just to not go there, right? Like, just don't focus your attention on it. You focus your attention, will expand. So just don't see it, and that's it. And it's been actually really, really good. I've rebuilt my respect with social media a lot, because I actually find that a place of connecting, especially during COVID. Like, I've been blessed with meeting incredible people. You are one of them. Like, I met so many incredible people on social media during this time, and it's I really have like rebuilt a lot of the respect. And I've always been very blessed, because I don't put myself out there a lot. So I was having this conversation with a friend of mine. She's also a nutritionist, and incredible, like her results, and she's super smart and everything. And but she gets a lot of criticism. She posts a lot of bikini pictures and all of that, and she gets a lot of hate, which I find it very sad. I don't put myself out there to like allow people to give that feedback. So you never see a picture of me in a bikini on my Instagram or stuff like that. Like, I think I posted one just to show my stomach like a few weeks ago, but that's about it. Like, I'll never be Jose or put my body out there, because I know, unfortunately, it can trigger people, right? And I don't want to have that energy in my life.
Yeah, no, that's super important. And I feel like that's the other side that I've seen of social media, is like people just being really honest about their journey and what they've gone through. I think it's so powerful. And that's why, like, if I do catch myself like going into the scroll hole, and then I'm like, oh god, I pick myself out of it, and then I go onto the accounts that I find like really inspiring. And that's exactly what you say. Like, it's just, you've got to select who you follow and who you're opening yourself up to. And like the people that I've connected with, and just being really honest about their health journey, is so inspiring to so many people. And it gives so many people hope that actually there's other people going through it as well. And like you sharing your journey, I'm sure has helped so many women just be like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's so important, that when we have society and we have the different elements that is completely against women, for us to remember that actually we are all in this together, and just keep the conversations going. And it's always about like collaborate, not competition.
which to me is like something that it's really interesting. Like culturally, I find that in America we are more open about the collaboration, while moving to the UK for me it's actually been quite hard because I find people are very territorial on like their own, like areas, like they don't really like understand the whole collaboration, and they find like, like people can get very like closed off. And it's been, yeah, I'm all about like, I think like we rise by lifting others, right? Like this is like literally my quote that like I wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, how can I be of service for other people? Because that eventually comes back, so like I help people, people help me, and like this is how you live in abundance. And I am a huge believer of that. Like I think like there should be more of like the collaboration between women, and instead of like trying to like, yeah, cutting ourselves off.
I think again it goes back to like the world that we live in now, where we're so overexposed to so many different things, so many things put onto us, and it is like everyone has masculine and feminine energy in them, everyone does, but the world is predominantly run by masculine energy of like competition, got to get from A to B and in the shortest time possible, and like all of this, and it's all like we want everything now and we want instant results, and that's what we've kind of. But if we all just take a minute, and I think COVID has been really good for that, to take a minute and go, actually, what aligns with me and my values? Like, where am I going? Definitely for me. And I kind of just think, we are all stronger together, and there's so much against women in general anyway. Like the medical health gap drives me mad. And if we come together and stop seeing each other as competition, collaborate,
Absolutely.
amazing things can happen.
So many great things can happen, and I'm glad that you brought out like the whole thing, because like I think like a lot of the time like it's not known out there that 90% of the research that it is done on like health and nutrition and all of that is done on male and not female. And the reason why we have been excluded in history from like the research is because our hormonal composition is so complicated, because like while a man goes through like his hormones like on a daily cycle, like testosterone like drops like it rises in the morning and it drops in the evening. For us with our period and all the like 4 phases and the things, and like it's just so complicated that all the research and studies on health and nutrition has been done outside of like the women, and make us feel like we're total failure because we can't keep up with a regime that was built on men. We're not meant to perform like men. We're not, like the week before your period, like you're not going to be able to catch up with a man. Like you're just not, so if we only could learn to just embrace our uniqueness and really like come together, as you're saying, and try to shift the paradigm like around like how we should perform, like we're not meant to perform like men. Like I understand the whole feministic movement of wanting to be equal, but the reality is that we're not equal. We're very much different. We're very different, and we need to respect that diversity is beautiful. It's what makes us unique and what makes us so strong and powerful, and like that needs to be embraced more. And like instead of like trying to like be like, oh, and I'm a CEO and I'm a mom and does that, it's like, no man, like like we're not meant to like perform like a man. So we just need to take back and actually allow ourselves to be different.
Yeah, and to listen to your body. But I think what I find really interesting is like I've read different books about like the menstrual cycle and how your mood and everything that you should be doing in your life it's kind of telling you, like your menstrual cycle tells you so much about your health and so much about what's going on. The problem that I have, and it's because I've had endometriosis, I'm on the implant and the pill. I've taken myself off the pill, but I feel like that's always the first thing that doctors say. Go on hormone replacement, go on contraceptive that's all hormones and completely messes up your cycle. So and I'm really passionate about trying to get back in touch with my cycle and my body and to track it naturally of what's going on. But I think for women it's so like, how do we get back to that point that we're in touch with our body if this is what we're dealing with? And it just seems that it's all hormones that people give us.
I think it's like an awakening that needs to happen on a singular level, and then just like doing your research, like I don't go to doctors unless it's like an extreme case, like I just don't have a doctor. I've never seen a doctor. I mean, I haven't gotten sick in like I don't know. I don't even remember when I got like I think probably in high school the last time I had a flu. If so, I don't even remember. So, like but I do have a naturopath, right? And like that's where I go to, like if I feel imbalanced in any way, like there's so much wisdom in Eastern medicine. And like unfortunately Western medicine is great when you're breaking a bone or something serious happened, but when you think that a doctor is only required to take like 6 hours of nutrition, well recently they changed it to 1 week of nutrition. 1 week of
Yeah.
nutrition, like
Yeah.
we are made from what we eat. What we eat gets broken down and feeds our organ, our cells, like everything works in relation of that. And like doctors only have such small knowledge about it. And unfortunately they're trained to like look at the disease as like a singular thing. Like they don't put the dots together. So it's like, oh, this symptoms means this, so this is the medication, right? And the medication, unfortunately, most of the time, it's nothing more than putting a band-aid. And this is what I tell my clients. It's like, it's kind of like if you step on a nail and then you just put a band-aid without removing the nail, right? Like you have to remove the nail. And unfortunately, like the medication, like like the whole way that we look into diseases right now, it's so wrong. That people are like, oh, I have a flu, I'm like, like I have to take medication. It's like, no, that means your immune system is working wonders.
Yeah.
Let him do his thing. Be thankful and grateful that you have a flu because your body's protecting you. That's actually good. So it's just like a reframing and like really like an awakening that needs to happen on like a conscious like level of like each individual to be like, okay, there's more out there that it's for me to be reached, and there's more that I can like look into and like not take one verdict as the way all be all. Like you can do your research. There's so much alternative medicine out there, from like I love acupuncture, like to alternative medicine functional practitioners, like holistic nutritionists like myself. Like this is like all out there. You just need to like, and it's becoming more and more common nowadays, which is awesome. Like I really loved seeing that. Like when I started 6 years ago, it wasn't even as popular as it is not right now. Like when you were saying the things that I used to say back then, people were looking at you like, oh, your gut health impacts your brain. People are like, oh my god, what are you talking about? Your diet like impacts your mood. And like now there's research that proves that, right? But yeah, so like I think like it's just like something that like you need to like inform yourself on and not take like the first verdict as like your antidote, and just do more research. I always try to like go natural ways first, and then if nothing else works, then go to like Western medicine. But yeah,
I think that's what I am sort of seeing, is there is this shift where women are like questioning the white coats a lot more and going, actually no, like what if that doesn't work for me? Like what other alternatives are there? And they're actually looking outside of the medical realm and are looking at different holistic ways of doing it, because it's exactly like what you say in your book. It's a whole approach, and it does completely start with the mindset. And I feel like there can be resistance to people dealing with their mindset because they don't want to admit that there's an issue there, and it's hard. It is really hard.
it's much easier to take a medication for something than having to do the work, because having to do the work is painful. To like having to unlearn everything you've learned, take away your ego out of the way, learn to like really like go deep within yourself and find the answers within. It's a much harder work than taking a pill and like just pretending like nothing, right? So every like disease and stuff, like there's like a book that I was told recently that I did not know about. Like usually I just like go on the internet when I find, but every disease is linked to something, an imbalance emotionally, right?
Yeah.
So you can see how like everything is connected even on that realm, and it's like very very on point. Like I find it like when I first started studying this and like practicing it on myself, and I'm like I would get like, oh, my left hip is like in pain, and then you look it up and it was like financial trouble, and at the time I was like very like distressed on like finances. I'm like, wow, this is so strange. So then like I think like yeah, it's just very interesting, but the body needs to be treated as a whole. And unfortunately we are living in a society that is so fast, and people are just getting more used to it, to just get like, they want like the quick solution. People want the quick solution, you know, like my 12-week program now needs to be a 30 days, just so I can get people to feel different in 30 days, so then like we can work more after, right? Because like people just want the quick solution, they don't want to do the work anymore, and unfortunately that's just how it is, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And I kind of feel it's also shifting that, but it's also shifting to put your health higher up on the scale, because I feel like everyone will go, I feel like most people will be like, oh, I'll go and get that amazing bag, or I'll go and get that amazing things to give them that quick high. But when you say, oh, you know, acupuncture session is, you know, 50 quid or something, they're like, well, I haven't got the money for that. It's like, if you prioritize your health and you want to live healthier, you will find that money, because you have to look at your life and see how you want to go forward. And I do find, like, when people are like, oh, I can't afford that, and it comes to health, in other areas of their life they could.
You know, it's like, it's really interesting that you say that. What I find is like, usually it's like people don't see the value, right? And because majority of people don't know what good feels like. And this is why like the program that I have now is 30 days only. And it's just like to show people what, like have a glimpse of what good can look like, you know. And because like people don't like they think that the symptoms and like the way that they feel in life is just the norm, right? I myself, I didn't know that there was any better, right? Like I didn't think that I could feel better from how I was feeling before. Like it just happened naturally once I started changing how I was eating. And I was like, oh, I feel a lot better. I wake up and I don't have a cloud head brain, and I can think straight, and I have so much energy, and I feel in a better mood, and this is great, right? But if it wasn't that I made those shifts, I would have never experienced it. And I think like that's the problem with people. They're like, oh yeah, I don't care. Like it's not important for me, because they don't actually value that because they've never experienced it. But once you can take the person to experience how good feels like, I think like there's really no way back. And I've seen it like over and over again in the 6 years that I've been coaching people. Like once you start that journey, there's really no way back. And if every person could take just 1 year to invest in their health and like really like figure their body out and figure themselves out and doing the inner work with like a coach or like a therapist, like the whole therapy is so stigmatized to like go and see a therapist. And I think that's crazy. Like everybody needs a therapist. I think like everybody in this planet should go and see a therapist at some point in their life. Like anybody can benefit from it.
Yeah.
Like, but unfortunately it's been so stigmatized, and people are thinking like, oh no, you go to a therapist when you have a problem. Yes and no, you know, you can go also to a therapist to just like let out whatever frustrations you have. Like, but yeah, so if you can take 1 year to invest in your health and really figure yourself out, from your body to your nutrition to your mental state, you will live a life of freedom. That there's really like nothing that you can think that like is gonna hit you um that cannot like that will phase you, you know. Like that's like that has been my experience. Like once I start feeling good in my body, I've been through and back. And I promise you, like every time I'm facing difficulties, I'm like, okay, let's do this, you know, because I have the energy, I have the mood, I have like the mindset, and you know, whatever's need, like whatever it needs to be, like it helps you build resilience, you know, when you feel good in your body.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really interesting. I was speaking to someone about this the other week. They were saying it's the States have caught on to it a lot quicker than I feel the UK have.
Yeah.
But you look at like NBA players, you look at athletes, you look at, what do they have?
A coach.
And every single one does. And you kind
They
of,
are the best players in the world. There's nobody better than them, yet they have a coach.
yeah, and business, and like the most successful businessmen, like everything, they have coaches, and it's removing that stigma. And I feel like the States are cottoning on a lot quicker.
Yeah.
But I'd like to see it come over here a bit more, because I've said for years, like even if you think you're completely of sound mind, have no issues in the world, I suggest therapy. And I've always stood by it. I've always stood by counselling. I think it can absolutely change your mindset. It makes you see so many things that you get caught up in yourself, and it's really hard unless you're unless you're really committed and want to be honest with yourself, it's
But
really
even
hard.
then, you need someone else to call you out on your stuff. You know, like you need someone to mirror back things, because
Yeah,
as humans, we're so good at making excuses and pretending and like brushing things under the carpet. Like we're so good at that. Like, oh my gosh, if we were like in the Olympics, like I think that we would all be gold medals here. Like it's like you need someone that calls you off on your stuff and like, you know, like doesn't always agree. And unfortunately, a lot of like the friendships and like the relationship like that people surround themselves with, like I always like, you know, observe and stuff. Like I'm not one, like I know a lot of people, but in my close circles I only have a few, but those are the people that will call me off if I'm making a mistake. And I think like that's super important. That's a healthy friendship, right? Like not to always be a condescendent. And that's like what a therapist and a coach can do for you. Like if you don't have that support system and you want to just get started on your journey, like get yourself a therapist and a coach, because they're going to be able to lead the way and start you on the journey. Now the more that you do, the more you're going to be, you know, like proficient at it and like start like calling yourself off of it, like, you know, in time. But at the beginning you absolutely need someone. Like I think like it would, I don't know how it would have worked if I didn't have someone. Like I've always had coaches and mentors since I started this journey. I have a spiritual mentor, I have a therapist now, I have like a life coach. I've like, you know, I always have coaches in my life and like people that like help me like stay focused and like stay in the course. You know, you need that accountability.
yeah, massively. Accountability is such a big one. I
Yeah.
feel like every January everyone's like, I'm going to do this and this,
Oh
and
yeah.
they don't have accountability. And I think that's definitely a major thing, is when you can share that. So I'm really intrigued. So I've got a couple of more questions for you. So basically, what is your morning routine that sets you up for like, this is going to be a great day, I can smash everything that comes my way?
You know, it's really funny. Like for the longest time, it was very, very simple. It was just nutrition based. And then in November of last year, I read this book on recommendation that is called The Miracle Morning.
Okay, that's on my
Have
list.
you not read it?
No,
Oh my gosh, you're gonna read it in like a day maximum too. It's like a tiny little book. It will change your life.
I'm
So
excited.
it's 30 minutes. I make it 30 minutes. You can make it as long as you want. I make it 30 minutes. So you wake up and it's called the SARS. So you have like silence, affirmation, visualization, savers, silence, affirmation, visualization, exercise, reading, and scribing, which is journaling.
That's what I do now anyway.
That's literally your morning routine, and it's amazing. So I wake up and I have like my water. Like right now I switched it. Like I used to be like just like apple cider vinegar and lemon. Now I'm actually adding a few more things in my routine. So I have iodine, dandelion root, and whatever, or a celery juice. And then start my like morning routine, you know, like with my savers. Usually I don't do the exercises in the saver. I do 30 minutes of exercise every day. So I would do like only like the journaling and the visualization, the affirmation and all of that, and then get showered or like do a workout for half an hour and then get on with the day. So that's my routine.
Sets you up. And what is, obviously you said you're a baker and you like to cook, what is your favorite recipe that's your like, this will change my mood, or this is like the best?
All right, so here's the thing about me. Everyone thinks I'm a cook and I love cooking because I do cook. Actually recently someone asked me, it's like, oh, do you enjoy cooking? And I realized that moment that I actually don't enjoy cooking, but I do it because I love good food. So that's the reason why I cook. It's not because I enjoy cooking. It's like if I could have a chef that would do it for me, I would 100% have a chef. But I really do love eating good food, and that's why I cook, and that's why like, you know, I'm passionate and all that. So, but if it's for good mood, this is ridiculous. Peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
Well, I can't get on board with that. I can't get on board with
Oh
that.
my goodness. I swear, whoever invented the combination of peanut butter and either grape jelly or strawberry jelly together in
Oh,
like one
I
of the like,
can't.
oh my gosh, so good. So that is one of my favorite.
I love that. That's amazing.
I'm obsessed. Like that's like if I'm in a bad mood, peanut butter jelly sandwich, like very American of me. Like my mom would probably like yell at me if she sees this. And but yeah, like that like literally changed my life. I remember the first time I tried it, I was like, this is heaven in the mouth. Like whoever invented this need like a Nobel Prize. That it was like right at the same height as Nutella and Ferrero Rocher, which are not healthy, but oh my gosh, I can't. I have no self control. But yeah. So for good mood, it's like peanut butter and jelly. But in general, I just really like, I get very satisfied when I have a healthy meal. So I like, for me, like having like a green salad with like, like I make this sauce now that is ridiculous, so good. You grab some nuts, you can do like whatever mixed nuts or cashew, and then you put 1 clove of garlic and water and salt. That's it. And I put it on vegetables. I put it on everything. Like I put it on bread.
God, I'm gonna do that. Wow, that sounds
So
amazing.
so good. So like whenever I eat, like for me it's really important. Like when I started paying attention, I think like if you can start shifting your focus on, like a dieting and feeling, how are you feeling after a meal, like you can start learning so much about yourself and your body. And for me, there's nothing that satisfies me more than having a meal and feeling energized and happy afterwards, right? Like where I feel like, yes, this was good, I enjoyed it, it was tasty, it was healthy. I feel like I'm winning in life whenever I do something like that, right? So yeah, like I think like that's definitely like the recipe for me.
I love it. I love it. And then obviously, aside from your amazing book, Go Feed Yourself, what other books and podcasts would you recommend?
Oh my goodness. So books that changed my life that I think everybody on this planet should read is The Miracle Morning, The Four Agreement, The Mastery of Love, and Feather Soul. So these will change anybody's life and path. Then, like you have so many more, like seven habits of highly effective people. Like you, like depending, like I read a lot. Right now I'm
on my list.
Huh?
These are all on my list. Every
Yeah.
single one you
They're
said.
so good. Like right now I'm reading one that is called The Code for the Extraordinary Mind. Amazing. Highly recommend. Yes. Millionaire Success Habit. Really, really good. Yeah, so I read a lot. I read at least 1 or 2 books a month. So yeah, and then I reread them and reread them. So I have a huge library. So this is like, it used to be my closet for my shoes, and I had to start bringing books here because they're not feeling the library anymore.
I love that.
Another book. I'm like, yes, I know. Sorry.
Books are amazing. Do you listen to podcasts?
Not really, because I have a hard time concentrating. So if I can buy the paperback version of the book, I will always do the book. Just because like there is something, and they've done studies and all of that. Like when you're reading, you have, your attention is like just there. You cannot think about anything else. You cannot. Whenever you're listening to something, you're still like, you can still like you're looking at things. You can like other thoughts, like if you're walking around, like so you don't take in as much.
Yeah.
And then I love like all my books are. Let me see. These are all my books. This is my book. So here. I love like when I do like all my books, I have like I underline.
Yeah.
And I make notes.
Yeah.
So I need to do that. Like, so a Kindle for me, I cannot do a Kindle for the life of me, because I just need to like write down and scribe and like do all this stuff. So yeah.
I'm so selective with my podcast because I find like that, like I'll listen to Tony Robbins podcast because it helps like my mindset, but like I'll make notes on my phone like all the way throughout. I just make notes and I have to make sure that I'm in a space that I can just make notes with it.
That's the problem. Like sometimes, like I love like Jim Rohn. I grew up with Jim Rohn. Like he was a family friend for so I was lucky enough to like really grow up with him, the influence. And like, and that's the problem. Whenever like I'm listening to his audiobook, I'm like, I need to write things, and I'm like, no, it's so much easier to do this, and then like you can like underline and just take it all in, and then it's beautiful because then once you like have gone to the book and you've underlined the most important things, like whenever you're like in a quick rush and you're like, oh, how was it? I remember there was a better way to do it, and then you can like go inside and then go directly on that page, and then like just like like you can see only the parts that are underlined. It's just easier. Yeah.
What's that book like? Way of the Wolf.
So good.
Is it? I read his book where it was about like his real life, and I was like, that is mad.
No, this is about selling skills, so
amazing.
Everybody that has a business should read
it. World.
It literally tells you how to like be a good salesperson. So this is like the code for selling.
Love that. I couldn't check that out. And so to kind of round it up, what would your top 3 tips be to women that just don't know where to begin, are just feeling really overwhelmed?
Stop listening to outside
Yeah.
suggestion. Stop. Just stop. Didn't even listen to me. Like, just listen to your body. Like, literally start asking yourself real question. Like, the power of asking yourself real question about anything in life is the most important thing. Learn to engage your rational brain, like our instinctive brain. Like, I've done a video on Instagram about this. Like, he is there to try to protect you from pain, but unfortunately changes like will require some pain. So you have to learn to engage your rational brain and learn to ask real good questions about how are you feeling, how are you doing the things, is there a better way to do it, is there a better approach to do this, are you feeling happy with where you are with your life, how are you feeling, are you satisfied, score yourself. There's like this one tool that I use in my coaching practice that I absolutely love, which is the wheel of life, right? And you just like can see clearly the imbalances in your life, and then just like start working like small. So like stop listening to outside things and focus on like inside, like asking yourself real questions. So focus on health and not a number on the scale. So throw away the scale today and never see it again. Like, you can use progress photos and progress videos. I take pictures of myself in front of a mirror. I never post them. You don't see them on my social media, but that's how I gauge myself. Because you can see if you're bloated, if you're not, like your skin tone, like you can see if your skin is more like elastic or less, or like you can see so much more by taking progress pictures and doing questionnaires than a number of a scale. So throw away the scale. It will give you so much freedom to like not having to have that number like dictate your mood. So that's definitely tip number 2. Tip number 3, what are these women like on the journey for? I think like the next would be like get in touch with your feminine self. So learn your cycle and learn how you're doing. Pay attention to where you are and learn to work with your body and not against it, right? So stop like thinking that approaching exercise is like a way to change your body. Exercise should be something that you're doing to help your body, because your lymphatic system only activates when you're moving. So stop like approaching life as a man and learn to approach life as a woman, right? Like, depending when you are in your cycle, you're going to be more creative, you're going to be more prone to making decision. You should not be making decision the week before your period, like stuff like that. Like, really like learn to tune with your feminine cycle and like feminine side of yourself, and like learn to do life like that. So plan your workouts like that, plan your calendar, your social calendar around that, and make sure that you're like like performing as a woman, because we're women and we're different, and that's something that you cannot change. So if you're going to work against what your natural state is for the rest of your life, you're just going to have a miserable life, and it's not worth it.
I love the advice. It's
Yeah,
strong stuff. I absolutely love it. So where can people find you?
well, I'm on Instagram mostly. Like, I'm there every single day. So it's Eleonora Bastos, which is the same name. But through there, you can message me, you can email me. Everything done through my Instagram page. So I think like that's like the best thing. Or I have a YouTube channel as well, which is Eleonora Bastos.
And she's super approachable. So if you want to message her, drop her a line.
Yeah, anytime. Like, I always say like to people, and like I always like love when people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like you actually give suggestion. Of course, I'm here to help. If you ever have any question and I can help you in any way, just like reach out, please.
Oh, thank you so much. Honestly, thank you. I absolutely love this chat. I can talk to you for hours. Like,
I know, me too.
I thank you so much for taking the time talking to me today, and we will definitely do it again soon for sure.
Yeah, can't wait. In person next time.
Definitely.
Cool.
Oh, thank you so much.
First, all right. Bye, hun. Bye.